Hi and welcome to the channel. My name is Drew. This is Just a Guy Linux, and this is my DWM setup. And yes, I've done two videos in the last month or so, and I wanted to follow up because I have added a few more things and I wanted to demonstrate them in case you were interested. And I know a few of you are definitely interested because you say, more DWM, please. But so here it is. Let's talk about patching DWM for a minute because I am up to 11 and I could probably do without a couple, but I did want to demonstrate the functionality of a couple that I have not shown before. If you recall, I did a DWM part 2 about a month ago and demonstrated a couple new patches that I had not done in the previous video. Okay. So this is what we are currently up to. This is not alpha, but this is the fix borders. It was necessary to fix the border up to always center so that when I open up something like MPV, it goes to the center of the screen. Auto start, pretty much self-explanatory. Movestack, being able to move things around the stack. Very, very common. Pertag is new to me because I normally don't do this, but when I restart DWM, occasionally it messes up all my my open applications, and so with this it limits it, and so pretty good. Focus net active. Now, I don't know if I talked about this before, honestly. However, I use WMCTRL occasionally in my key bindings, and so this was one of those things where I thought I might need this as well. So if you're not using WMCTRL, this is one thing that you can basically do without. So frankly, I could probably do without as well. Restart, and by default it goes mod control shift Q. I simply changed it to mod shift R to restart. Now this is new. Okay, so scratch pads. Now I am not a scratch pads user, but I recognize that a lot of you, I don't know a lot, there are a portion of you that use scratch pads as part of your workflow. So I included that and I'm going to demonstrate that as well. Status 2D up here for your status bar. I think actually I used, can't remember which, but systray. So I included systray in the patch too. So basically it's a twofer. Vanitygaps, which I really like because it adds quite a bit of, in this particular patch, adds a lot of layouts. And I'm using centered floating master. Now, I've talked about centered master in the past, but I'm kind of digging this centered floating master, and I'm going to show that as well. And then window follow, I did talk about this basically. When you move something to another tag, it follows it. But it's also an option, so you can turn it off as well. Let's transition and talk about layouts, and in particular, centered floating master, which I briefly mentioned. But I'm very curious about your opinion about this because I don't know that it's very popular. At the same time, I am interested in what you have to say about it. So if you have a comment, please leave it below. So let's go over to tag 3. And I'm going to show you that the master area is 65%. I have no idea what it was before in the video a month ago. I really don't. However, I have put centered floating master as the default entry and have really changed the layout order significantly. Most people use tile. Right now it is 4th on my list. Okay, and what I'm going to show you is I also have tags for the first 10. layouts that were in that list. So when I hit Shift Control 1 through 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 0, it changes the layout to the next one. So if I hit Shift Control 4, it would go to tile. In order to demonstrate any of these layouts, we're going to need more than one application on the current tag. I'm going to use the words workspace or tag kind of interchangeably, so just be aware. So when I open up, let's say, Ghostwriter. Ghostwriter is open up to the display as a centered floating master, which takes up 65% of the display. Now, on one hand, having the master being directly in front of me and at a very good size is a benefit. But let's say you want to change focus back to one of the stack applications, which would be Genie in this case. You can use either super left or super right as a keybind, at least in my particular configuration, to go back to it. So what I'm doing is just simply toggling between super left and super right. And with two applications open on the current workspace, it doesn't matter which one I'm using, okay? But this is what I struggle with a little bit. When I switch to Genie, which is actually still in a stack position on the display, it basically hides the fact that there is a master on the screen. So I don't know if I like that or not. And again, I'm kind of curious as to what other people what they would say about this. It's like, oh, this is unusable, because the fact that you're kind of going against the idea of a tiling window manager that keeps everything visible on the screen. There is a solution, kind of, okay? In my head, I don't know if this makes sense or not. But if I want to make sure that I'm always using master to do any work, I can simply move the stack. So in this case, I want to super shift left or right, moving Ghostwriter to a stack. So I'm going to go super shift left. However, notice where Genie is. It's now a master, but it is not focused. So now I have to say super left or right without the shift. So super, and now it's in a position. Again, I'm almost talking myself out of this as we're going along with this video, because I like the size of these stack, of the both master and stack. However, I don't know how usable it is from a workflow perspective. I know that it can be. I mean, I know that I can easily do this, but it might be better if you just keep everything in a tiled position. Now let's go over to Workspace 5 and let's demonstrate the different layouts, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up 4 different terminals. So Figlet A, just to give this a way to designate. So Figlet B, let's open up another one. Figlet C, and let's open up one more. Let's open up one more and say Figlet D. Okay. So now behind, you're going to see through the transparency, you'll see what is behind the centered floating master, which is the D terminal. Okay. So if I want to, again, I can go simply and super left and right in order to change focus on anything. And if I want to, let's say, go to A, which is in focus, and say super shift right, it automatically brings it into the centered floating master. So one of the good things about using centered floating master is that the dimensions of the stack are really good, in my opinion, Because if like I said, if I put focus on any of these three applications that are in the stack, they are equally sized and basically a full vertical length. So to me, this is space that is usable as opposed to other layouts that don't have the same vertical space. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me go ahead and actually switch to a different layout. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-2. Okay. Now this would be called the dwindle layout. All right. And granted, having a 65% master in this area really causes these stack windows to be very, very small. So let's go ahead and just kind of like resize so that it's about 50%. Now, with 4 windows open on the current tag, I don't know how usable this is for me. Again, I might not be the typical user here, and maybe the easy answer is moving one of the applications to a different workspace. So let's just well, you know, let's just say move that over to 2. Let's go back to 5, and now we've only got 3 things open on the on tag 5. So I want to actually move that back. So let's do that. Anyway, let's opt for the next layout. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-3. And now this is centered floating, sorry, not floating, just centered master. For any of you that watched DWM Part 2 about a month ago, I was advocating for centered master as a really good option for a layout. However, this would not be usable for me because the master here is 65, and I changed it to 40 in the previous video. So let's quickly, let's see what that would look like. I think that's close to 40. I'm not sure. Maybe that's, I'm not sure. But anyway, at least this gives you a better shot of usable vertical space when you have multiple windows open. Okay. Now let's go ahead and switch to Control-Shift-5. Oh, actually it's 4. Let's go to 4 because this would be more, this is tile, which is the default DWM layout. Now there's a good reason why tile is the default layout, and because it's really, really good, especially if you only have maybe a couple windows open concurrently. And by default, the size of the master is 55%, like if you just install DWM, okay? Now, we've got 4 things open, and so maybe this is a little bit skewed. You may not want, this may not be usable space for you, especially on the right. But if you only had 2 things open, you're basically tiling kind of equally sized, which is fine. And because you may want to, as soon as you open that 3rd window, move that to a open tag or workspace. Now I'm going to quickly go through the rest of the layouts that are that have keybinds. So Control-Shift-5 is called gapless grid. Some of you will be able to figure out use cases maybe that I'm not thinking of, but could be really valuable if you are using it for, I don't know, managing something. I don't know, but let's go to Control-Shift-6, and this would be spiral. Okay, and I think this is similar to what BSPWM does out of the box. Now my configuration doesn't look like this particular layout, but I think others might. Okay, let's go Control-Shift-7, and this would be another grid layout. Let's go to 8, and this would be monocle, so everything would be basically full screen. So I'm just going to kind of cycle through, so you see B, C, A, D. Okay, so everything is in full screen. Control-Shift-9 is another grid, and let's go to 0, and this is actually called B-stack, and this is kind of interesting too. So there are certain use cases there that are useful for this, but I'm going to go back to my default, which is centered floating master. Now, again, I think I've been very wishy-washy about this. I'm just thinking to myself, this still might be the best way to go for me, but it may be just my use case, my particular workflow. So just be aware that I like this. I don't know what I can't commit to liking it full time. And I think what happens is I will go from this particular layout to a different workspace and have a different layout for that particular workspace. So let's just say, I don't know, let's go to 4. I don't even know what's there. So if I'm on 4, or actually let's go to 3. If I'm on 3 and I'm looking at Genie, maybe I just want to change this particular workspace to something else. So I go 4 here, and then let's switch those two. And there you go. I have a different workspace, a different layout rather, for this workspace. But when I go back to the 5th tag or the 5th workspace, it's still on centered floating master. Okay. There is a few things that I forgot to mention, and that is by default, you only have 9 workspaces, but I added 3 more. So 10, 11, and 12. So my keybinds for those are, 0, minus, and equal. And I also added another patch that I neglected to say, and that is the hide vacant tags. So that's why you're not seeing 2 and any of the others, including 10, 11, and 12 right now. Okay. So just for your own information, those 2 things I should have mentioned right off the get that I neglected to do so. Sorry. However, I do want to mention, and I did in a few minutes ago, basically talk about scratch pads as a patch that was recently installed. Let me be clear about which scratch pad patch was incorporated. It is this one that's called scratch pads. Okay, I'll leave a link in the description below. However, as far as the configuration is concerned, these are the things that had to be added in order for it to work. This section here, if it did not do so when you installed the patch, then this is something that you may have to add. Now, these are the 2 lines that you need to take more careful note of, okay? So I have ST installed, and I have Kitty installed, and I have other I have other terminals that are installed, but I wanted to demonstrate these 2 because by, ST being a suckless utility may be something that you've already installed and seems to be really, really good at handling these patches, okay? So this is the syntax I used for this, this particular scratch pad, and I only have 2, and one is for Pulse Mixer so that you can change your audio volume, and the other one is for Ranger in case you wanted to have a terminal-based file manager, okay? Again, this is also part of this, of the addition to the configuration file. And again, please note that this is not the same as this, but if you are looking in my dot files, this is what you will currently see. All right. And the only other thing that I need to show you is the actual keybind for that. So as you can see, like Super V, which is for volume, shows the, shows this particular command or this particular scratch pad. Okay, so for Pulse Mixer. Okay, so Super V for this ST, showing Pulse Mixer, and Super R, is that right? Yeah, Super R is to toggle the scratch for Ranger, okay? So only thing to do is to show you. So Super V, okay? And now it's there, and I can change the volume of my card, as well as if I just hit Super V again, it's toggling on and off. So it's not closing the window and then restarting the window or anything like that. It's actually just in the background. It's just being toggled on and off. Okay, so I'm going to toggle it off, and now when I hit Super R, okay, it comes up with Ranger. And if I hit Super R again, not closing, just happens to be toggling on and off. Okay, now again, this might be good for certain people, certain use cases where you're already in a particular directory and you're working with that directory or what have you, and instead of closing it and then restarting the whole thing, the whole process over again, you're at that and just basically toggle it off. Okay, so as far as me as a user is concerned, I like this. I don't know that I am using this, but if you're somebody like Matt from the Linux Cast, you're all about scratch pads. And so this is something that you may want to incorporate into your particular workflow. Today is a milestone. Today is May 20th, 2024. And as you can see, my very first video on this channel was May 20th, 2022. So 2 years later, and I am still very much blown away by your support. It is really, really awesome for you guys to watch, for you to subscribe, and for just an enormous amount of supportive and kind comments. I am blown away all the time by this, and I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So I will continue to do the things that I really like to demonstrate on this channel. And I hope that you'll stay along for the ride with me. I really never know where I'm going and what I'm doing from one video to another. But I really enjoy doing this content for myself and for you as well. So thanks again, and I will see you soon.